Hey everyone, I thought tonight we'd fire off a relatively quick video because I'm really fucking hungry. Wicked, I thought I gave you stuff to do. Are you not interested in the digger? Is that it? The digger is too boring. Yeah, like the puppy. Alright. So on tonight's agenda, we're going to skip discussion of urban legends and creepypastas. Going to read a poem that Indy wrote, and then veer back into the original purpose of this channel, more or less, and read some of the kooky shit that I've read. Yeah, the stuff that I've written, rather. Last time I touched this was about a month ago. So 77 years. Yeah, so last I recall we read Blade of the Behemoth. Alright, but before we come back to that, Synesthesia by Indy. Lost in her thoughts as the music kissed her soul, a tornado of destruction in her. I guess destruction makes more sense. Yet, in this very moment, not a single knoll. The thunder-like bassy vibrate tingled through her veins. Her smile lit up the dark and dimly lit hippodrome. Like rain, her body moved graciously to the backbone of the bass, as the accompanist plucked his thick fibers. The pungent, smoky smell of sweat, and the understanding of pleasure, entertainment, enjoyment, amusement, excitement, and gratification in this dark and trippy terrace. The taste of a cold one as she glides like an heiress, the vibrate of the bass as it flowed from her figure. The sweet words you sang sounded like a purr in her soul, in her leather combats, as they thawed with every cajole, each being in leather jackets, coarse belts, and ripped jeans. Their hair a canvas, the feebly lit room lit up just a bit more. Written February 6, 2019. Text from Wifey. So, best that I can recall, the last time I read a bit from Quest for the Relics, it was the Blade of the Behemoth, where we saw the big-ass sword cut a giant in half. An ogre. So, we plunge in. Matthias. The journey to Mardunra was not an easy one. Though spooked, the horses remained outside Absalon, the supposedly haunted city. Even so, Matthias could tell that they weren't happy about their loyalty. Ever since he was young, he had an affinity for every horse he ever met. These horses, though they were born and bred in Ezratown, were no different. Lucky for them, Mardunra was the closest settlement to where they were once they stumbled out of Absalom. As the oldest city on the continent of Angvir, it was the largest and most bustling, even busier than the lower town under Mar Alieska, which was the nation's capital. The sound of war chariots roused everyone from their reverie. Is that what I am to you, Wicket, a plaything? Yeah, probably. They had all been too exhausted from the fight with the Tura to talk much, even though the gates of the city were in sight. Matthias could tell that it wasn't the Mardunra City Watch coming to meet them. For one thing, they were coming from the wrong direction. These soldiers were the surcoats of Templars, of Zealots. This would not end well. Matthias knew that Xanathak belonged to the Temple of Eternal Truth, and he was a disciple there. So why were the Zealots chasing them now? Find cover! Matthias yelled, as the thundering of the chariots grew louder. A copse of cacti and rocky outcroppings provided meager shelter from their pursuers, but it was enough for the nonce. Once they were all safely hidden, Matthias finally asked Xanathak a question that had been troubling him since they had left on this quest they were all on together, one way or another. Xana, why are the Zealots after us? What have you done? The disciple gulped and reached into his saddlebag, something he hadn't done the entire time they had been in Mar Alieska together. He retrieved the gemstone diadem and showed it to Matthias. Allegra gasped. How were you able to hide this? Bad time for questions, Kamui interjected. They are almost on us. Xanathak Mate! Come out! By the auspices of the Paragon, Arcturus Cambion, you are under arrest. Surrender and come with us, and your friends will not be harmed. Matthias knew that voice, although it took him a few moments to realize why. Oops, sorry, Shirley. It was the voice of Ellis Ingraham, the champion of the temple and Lord Commander of the Zealots. He held a rank equivalent to Matthias's own rank as Field Marshal. Matthias's hands tensed, as Ellis had always been a rival from the time both could lift a sword. It also aggravated him how Ellis had always been so condescending toward him for not being born into House Gamron, and his open scorn of Allegra's prestigious status given the mere offense of her gender. In other words, he thought she didn't deserve to be heir to the throne simply because she was a woman. Hey, Ingraham! Cisco shouted. Here's an idea! Go fuck yourself! Ingraham was a notoriously thin-skinned man, and he didn't take kindly to the rude suggestion. He seethed as he gave orders to his minions to attack. He wouldn't dare sully his hands on a pirate. I know Cisco's supposed to have something of an accent, but I'm not as good as Colin O'Rourke, okay? Colin O'Donoghue. I don't know who Colin O'Rourke is. Cisco nearly broke cover while brandishing his revolvers, but Matthias put a hand on his arm, shaking his head in a wordless warning. Let me handle this, he said, before climbing out of the outcropping. A ring of 5 zealots stood in front of him, with Ingraham behind, scowling from beneath his plumed helmet. I don't wish to draw steel, Matt said loudly and clearly, so that his words carried on the dusty air. But I will if I have to. If you draw your sword on us, then that makes you an enemy of the temple, Ingraham insisted. The Paragon demands Anathek's capture for the grievous crime he's committed. He will face our justice and none other. Your thugs don't frighten me, nor do your threats, Ellis. Let your attack dogs loose and I will chastise them. Very well, on your own head be it, Ellis shot back. Men, seize them! The 5 zealots advanced, brandishing spears and cudgels. Matt grinned as they approached. He disarmed the first opponent to attack and bludgeoned him with his own cudgel. Then he used the same weapon to dispatch the other 4, leaving them in heaps of dented armor. Ingraham dismounted from his chariot, spitting with enraged disbelief. So it seems that if you want something done right, then you need to do it yourself. I offer you a deal, Ellis, Matt said sardonically. Fight me man to man. If you win, you can take Xanathak back with you. If I win, well, it's like Cisco said, fuck off. Ellis didn't need further goading. He drew the sword that was the mark of his station, an immortal steel sword called the Zealot's Fury. Matt grinned as he drew his own immortal steel sword. Blinded by rage, Ingraham charged first. Their swords met with a loud ringing like a bell being thrown against a gong. It's one of my favorite sentences that I've ever written. Back and forth they clashed, Ingraham growing even more incensed while Matt met him step for step and stroke for stroke. Then Matt spoke a single command word in pre-Anglica, and his sword's blade sparked to life, lit with a long orange flame that scorched the back of Ingraham's surcoat. In an instant, Ingraham's anger turned to panic, and he realized he was on fire. He ripped off his surcoat and stomped on it before turning to Matthias again. Yes, I know, I'm having trouble pronouncing that. I'm not entirely sure. Why? Oh well. It's not like I haven't been writing about this character for 20 years or anything. You win this round, barbarian. Take heed. We will meet again, and next time I will triumph. Only if you bring more men with you. And I think we've got time for one more segment. Interlude 3, and then it goes back to Interlude 3, The Exiled Prince. The Spider Coast was no place for any living thing. And yet, here he was, Commodus Gamron, formerly the Crown Prince of Angvir, now wandering the wastes with his retinue of friends, companions, and hangers-on. Lorenzo and Dorian Felnor, Leon Andros, Apollyon Sandus, Locke and Lance Reston, and Desdemona Jeanette, his concubine. Their food had run out 3 days ago, and their water had run out yesterday. They could only bring the bare essentials with them into this wasteland hell, but Com knew what it was: death sentence by proxy. His father, The king hadn't even had the willpower to have them all executed, yet the only crime his entourage had committed was remaining loyal to him, following him into banishment. They were all on the brink of collapse as a blood-red comet loomed overhead. Then their savior appeared, a man swathed in crimson robes, wielding a skull and a curved knife with a strange symbol on the end of its handle. "Ah, welcome, Prince Commodus. We have been expecting you." Com didn't know what the "we" the robed man spoke of meant, but he was in no shape to be suspicious. "You are on the point of death, yes?" Too parched to speak, Com made a croak of passing assent. "Then swear your undying loyalty to me, and your friends, and you and your friends will be saved. Do you so swear?" Com croaked again. "Know ye this, Prince? You will have the fulfillment of every dark wish of your heart. But you must cast off your mortal name that you were born with. All that you can carry with you into your rebirth is the darker nature that now screams for release. I am Ricard Lusoff, servant of the Lord of Anguish. I draw this blade and dub thee Daemon Hellfire, Lord Commander of my Death Guard. And so, the pact is sealed." Lusoff's sinister voice turned into a high, eerie keening that carried to the sun-scorched sky. Com couldn't understand the words, but he felt strength return to him, and his hunger and thirst dissipated. Then he could stand. "I thank you for this boon, Master," were the first words out of his mouth as dehydration faded. He felt alive again in a way he hadn't since the first time he'd tilted in a joust back home. "I have another gift for you, my son." Lusoff produced a long and wickedly sharp blade, a wickedly sharp sword with a blade the same crimson red as the robes Lusoff wore. "This is the Blood Fang. Wield it in my name, and you will have your revenge on all who have wronged you. Oh, and your friends that remained when I found you. They are your knights to command as you will, so long as you obey my own orders." "1,000 thanks, Master." So, that's all we're going to do for tonight.